Since episode 13 was just a recap episode, I thought I would put together a video kind of giving my impressions of the series so far and some of the main characters. Hunter x Hunter, episode 13, A Letter from Gone. Gone.
Well, hello, my brothers and sisters and prospective hunters of the Nerd Nation. I, as always, am Jim, here to bring you another review on another episode of the majestic, the wonderful, the mind-bending, the trickery-filled tale of Hunter x Hunter 2011. Now, this episode, it's a recap episode. So what I'm going to do here is I'm pretty much just going to give my impressions of some of the main characters in the story that we've seen thus far. Really, in the last episode, of course, we saw everyone getting out of Phase 3, and there's 24 contestants still left, prospective hunters, if you want to call them, that are moving on to Phase 4. We have no idea how many phases there actually are. It could be 5, it could be 6, it could be 7. There's averages and everything else based on it, but it changes every year. So that's really, to me, that's kind of the really neat, unique thing about this, is that there's so much depth put into this that, hey, listen, you want to try to be a hunter every year? Fine, so be it. Number one, you may lose your life, okay? And number two, we're going to change your shit up every year, so you're never really going to know what we're throwing at you, and you're never going to know how many phases there are, where you're at in the phase, what you have to do to complete. We give you very little information to go on. And in a way, I think that's really good. It's really neat. So far, my thoughts and impressions of the series are, I really enjoy it. I really, truly enjoy it. I really love the animation. I think the animation is done very well. I think the voice acting is done very well. I even think that the music, the background music, and the intro and the outro, very exciting, get you kind of hyped and pumped for the episode. It's one of those things where I watch the intro every time, even though I know it's there. Whereas with other anime, a lot of times after I've seen it once or twice, I kind of skip over it. But with this one, I really enjoy it. So I just kind of, and I'm like sitting there dancing in my head. While it goes on. So the four main characters, though, and I'm just going to kind of go into a little bit of a breakdown of each one of what I see so far in them, and then kind of wrap this up over here. The first one is our main character, and that's Gon. And Gon is a 12-year-old boy who we find out, it just desperately wants to become a hunter to follow in his father's footsteps. His father went and took the hunter exam when he was 12, and then I guess at some point, wound up having Gon or finding Gon or whatever. Gon's his child, and then went and dumped him off with his aunt, Mido-san. And that's what the whole recap episode is about, is that he basically sends a letter back to her, explaining exactly what has been going on, his friendship with Killua, things of that nature. And then it's neat to see, too, what he's actually willing to tell his aunt and what he's not, because he leaves out some of the more gruesome parts, some of the more danger-filled parts of the exam so far, probably trying to protect her so she doesn't knowing that she'll be upset and that there's nothing she can do about it but worry, and not wanting her to worry. So that's what I got from that. But Gon is, he's very simple-minded, but he has that simple genius, I like to call it. He has a sixth sense about him, which we saw evident just in these first 12 episodes. There's several different times where he kind of, picked up on something, whether it be something with smell or sight or sound or what have you, that really, although it was a simple means to an end, it was the right way to go. It was the right way to do things, and it was really kind of neat to see. I really enjoy too, and I like how. For instance, when Chairman Netero, had said, "Hey, take the ball from me," to him and Killua. Killua got pissed off and wound up giving up after a while, knowing that he couldn't get the ball away from him. Whereas Gon kept going and going, and instead of trying to go and climb all the way to the top of the mountain in one single leap, he realized that you got to find footholds and find different points, and you got to climb the ladder, so to speak. And for him, he just wanted to make him use his other hand, right? Because in his book, that was a win. And then, hey, next time maybe I'll be able to go further. So I really enjoy the character. I enjoy just kind of that simple-mindedness. He just kind of has this big smile on his face all the time. He's very positive about things, and I really think that's kind of cool. I really do, because this series so far, it started out kind of bright and shiny, and then it's taken a couple of darker turns, which I think is very neat. But at the same time, it's neat to see this beacon of light shining as the main character, so to speak. You really can't help but smile when you see him, when you hear him talk. So next up, though, is Kurapika, and Kurapika is I think it's cool because he has that backstory where he's driven. We find out he's driven by vengeance. His motivation is vengeance. He wants to become a hunter so he can hunt down the Phantom Troop. You know, and apparently these are like mercenaries, assassins, something like that. And it's this dangerous criminal organization that killed pretty much all of his clan, but himself. Except for him, and killed them for their scarlet eyes. These eyes that are just they're worth so much money that they only happen when they're like completely in fear or enraged or you know, just basically under like super amount of stress. So we've seen that he can be very level-headed at times, but he can also be very pig-headed and stubborn. He almost cost them all a chance to move on past the third round. He almost cost them that opportunity by refusing to finish his fight with Majitani. He had, you know, put him down, but then when he found out that he needed to either kill him or, you know, shake his ass awake, do something to get him to surrender, he refused and cost them not only hours of their time, but then Leorio was forced to go in there and then to go and try to get that match settled. He wound up starting to do this betting game with that little girl that he wound up feeling up. And then it ultimately wound up costing them 50 hours because of that. So I look at it as like it wasn't Leorio's fault. It was Kurapika's for not actually finishing what he started. The bottom line is you have to finish what you start, okay? You want to become a hunter, you want to hunt down the Phantom Troop and kill him, but you're unwilling to go and to kill this prisoner who was posing as a Phantom Troop guy anyway. And, you know, regardless, you know, you should have tried to finish your shit. Solve the problem, do whatever you have to do, you know. He could have came back in there and done what Leorio did and hold him out over the edge until he wound up waking up and then been like, hey, dude's faking, and then got him to surrender. But he refused. He sat over in the corner and basically meditated and just ignored everybody. And that type of shit pisses me off because on one hand, I see that he can be the calm, cool, collective, level-headed voice of reason in the group, but on the other hand, it's a wild card when you can't trust what he's going to do when it comes down to it, you know. So next up is Leorio. And Leorio, he has a cool background as well, I think. At first, he kind of came off to me as, and I'm sure you as well, as kind of an asshole. You know, just kind of, you know, he wears a suit and he carries his briefcase and he's got his little wire rim glasses and he appears that he's older, that he's maybe in his 20s or 30s. Some people have told me that he's about 18 in here, but you know, he doesn't act, sound, or look like it the way that he's portrayed, at least in this first 12 episodes. But his background is that, you know, and at first he just keeps going on about he just wants to become a hunter, to become rich and famous. But ultimately, he does have a good heart. It seems like some kind of childhood friend of his, maybe a loved one, a brother or sister, was very sick, and they didn't have the money for the operation, for the hospitalization, whatever doctor's type, you know, assistance was needed. So his whole thing is okay, well, then I'm going to become a doctor. But it costs money to go to school to become a doctor. So he's of the mind that, you know, the world, it's the root of all evil, money is, but it's what makes the world go round. You know, if I want to become a doctor and be able to offer my services to people who are less fortunate, who don't have the money to pay just to be a good, kind, decent person, I have to pay tons of money to become a doctor. So I'm going to become a hunter, so I have the money to do those things. So I definitely like where it's going with his background. The problem with him, though, is that, again, and everybody has their strengths and weaknesses. He, however, though, is a character that I find to be out of the four main characters the weakest, mentally and physically. I mean, he got his ass whipped by Hisoka back in Phase 1. In Phase 3, he wound up having some issue. He's always the guy who's like, that's crazy. He's always questioning everything instead of just trusting and trying to get things done. He's always the one that's like, no way, I'm not going to do that, or oh, wait, I can't do this anymore. And then he wound up going in when they were betting the hours and everything in Phase 3. You know, I really don't like how he handled that. You know, I think he handled it in a very childlike way. And I'm not talking about the part where he bet 10 hours so he could go feel up the little girl with the pink hair. You know, whatever. That was funny and everything else, even though I kind of look at him as like this weird pedophile-like pervert now. But nonetheless, it was just the whole series of events that led up to it, and how he handled it. So I don't think he handled himself very well, and he doesn't seem to be a person who takes responsibility. Tompa's a piece of shit, but Tompa brought out something good when they were locked in the room. Dude, take responsibility for what you did. We're in this predicament because of you. Now, you can look back on it and say, no, he got into the predicament to begin with and started the betting nonsense because of Kurapika not finishing up his fight. and him feeling like he needed to finish that and just trying to think on the fly. Maybe he wouldn't. Maybe the series of events would have played out differently had that not happened. But nonetheless, he certainly didn't bail anybody out of anything. So he wound up eventually getting the credit for that one round, but he lost his round as well as 50 hours and almost cost them all, again, a chance to move on. So like the character, don't love him yet. So that's just my impressions after a dozen episodes. Last but not least would be Killua. And Killua I really enjoy because his background, finding out that he comes from a family of assassins, he's this spiky-haired, shorts-wearing, skateboard-looking, just looks like this cute, innocent kid. But dude can, we saw him in Phase 3 straight up rip a guy's heart out. We've seen that he's got some crazy, shadow-like underground ninja-type moves, assassin-type stuff. And really, to me, he's going to be the sleeping giant. He's going to be the one that, as the series progresses, I think we're going to see some crazy, crazy things as far as his powers, what he actually has, what he actually evolves to become, because he's at a point where he has no qualms about taking a life. He does what needs to be done to get the job done. That's it. It's simple-minded, it's straightforward, it's brutal, it's lethal, it's ruthless, but he gets the job done, and that's the important part about this, getting the job done. So I really like him, and probably so far I would say him and Gon are probably my two favorite characters. I like Gon for that simple-mindedness, and Killua for the same thing, except for he's a little bit darker and kind of willing to take it a step further, willing to take it as far as it needs to be taken, I guess I should say. So. All in all, though, again, love the series, love the animation, and some of the other characters that they've shown so far in the Hunter exam. Some of them are kind of cool. I like the bald ninja guy. I think he's kind of neat. The weird looking, almost looks like a cyborg or robot with kind of looks like Pinhead. He's got these little pins and balls sticking out of his face. He's greenish. That guy, man, he kind of makes me nervous. He kind of scares me. Now, I don't know if he's going to be a big pussy or what, but when I see him and as he walks around, I hear him clicking and clacking and stuff. I don't trust him. I'm a little scared of him. The other character that I think deserves an honorable mention is Hisoka. Hisoka seems to have this weird sort of it seems like he gets off on killing or hurting people, It seems like he just it tickles his dick when that happens. But Hisoka ultimately, I think, is probably at this point one of the most powerful, if not the most powerful, perspective hunter, I guess you would say. Killua, I think, is that sleeping giant, but I don't think that his powers are. I think he still has youth and, unfortunately, and a temper that I think ultimately would keep him from winning in a one-on-one battle at this point with Hisoka. Hisoka definitely, to me, deserves an honorable mention because he's cool looking, he's creepy, and he's very, very powerful. So, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how he develops as the exam goes on, and obviously just kind of as the series goes on. So ultimately, that's my impressions of it, and that's what you kind of get as your wrap up and your review for episode 13, as opposed to me kind of going over every little thing of every phase, which you've already seen, you've heard. If you've been watching my reviews, you've seen that. You kind of got my thoughts and my impressions on what I've seen so far. And remember, just on the first 12 episodes. So, if I do this again in 15 or 20 or whenever, I may have an entirely different impression of all these characters, but those are my initial impressions. Love Gon, love Killua, and definitely I don't have anything against Kurapika or Leorio. I think they're good characters. I'd like to see more of them, and I'd like to find out more about them. But ultimately, I do have some qualms about some things that they've done, some questionable actions thus far. So, anyway, my episode question for you is really, what are your thoughts so far on those characters, on the four main characters? You can put Hisoka in there if you want as well. Feel free to obviously write out as much as you want in the answers down below. Or if you have a favorite character and you just want to tell me what your favorite character is and why. That'll make it much simpler rather than having everybody have to go and type out, exactly what they want to have going for all the characters. So that'll be a good one. Just tell me what your favorite character is thus far in the series and why. Leave your answer in the comments down below. Feel free to hit the thumbs up, the like button if you should think that I deserve it, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. We will look forward to catching all of you hunters in the next one, nation.
Remember to follow me over on my second channel as well as Twitter and Facebook, if you want.